And I was like, oh my gosh. So I literally paused the movie, got up and walked out because I was just bawling. Yeah.
Would you say good writing demands emotional honesty?
Oh gosh. Yeah. Definitely. Good writing definitely demands emotional honesty. I think that's the only way for the audience to buy in is when we feel the emotion. It's all about that. Like literally, that's what it's all about. And I would say the same thing with good directing as well. When a scene works when we feel that emotion and when we feel like it's authentic. We can tell when things are just being done or said or being preached to, and it's not doesn't feel authentic. Like we can learn lessons and be told things in a non-preachy kind of way um, that feels real, that feels authentic. A really good example I think of that is which actually was interesting because it just got voted the #1 screenplay of the what was it? Of the decade or the 21st century? Get Out. When you look at Get Out, and I've read the script a couple times, and I've watched the movie a couple times. I even watched, the other ending, how the original ending of how he wanted it to end, which was on a downer, actually. Those that have seen it before, they know how it ends and the way it ends now. But that actually is a movie that is telling the story about racism. It's telling a story about, you know, um, historical injustice, um, and a lot of other things that are being said there, but you don't feel like you're being preached to. I think that's why it worked. And that's why people of various melanin shades went to go see it because it didn't feel that way. Even though we got it, it didn't feel that way. And I think that's the big difference in how stories are being told. It was an emotional story, but you didn't feel like you were being preached to. So it always comes down to emotional integrity for any any script, any scene, and if you're able to hit that, uh, this is us. You know, people cry on that show all the time because we feel what those characters are feeling, and it feels organic. It doesn't feel like it's forced, and I think that's why it works.
How hard is it to write an emotional scene?
Oh wow. Um, I think it depends on how invested you are in that scene. Like I've written scenes that when I wrote it, I cried. So if you're all in, I think you can do it and do it well, and the words and the feeling just flow. It's interesting. It's like whenever I'm writing a scene, I think about how do I want people to feel. So if I know how I want them to feel, it helps to dictate what I'm going to say or what the characters are going to say to get people to feel that way. So it's almost like I start from the emotion first and then use that as leverage to write what the characters are going to say. Whenever I've done it the other way around, usually the scene doesn't read on the page the way I intend it to read. If I start with just the words, I'm like, okay, a cheat would be something like, um, Sarah says something, and then I'll put in, she cries. Like that's a cheat. Why does she cry? If you go backwards and kind of re-engineer it, what caused her to cry? What is it? You know, and that's when you're like, okay, yeah, what exactly is making her cry? Okay, what's the feeling that she's feeling right now? She's down because she's thinking about her father. Okay, well, what's making her think about her father? Oh, why don't I put a picture in here? Or do something that helps the actor or the actress get to that point. It's like, the saying is, is it earned? Is it earned? And there's a lot of actors and actresses who you put down, she cries on the page and they can cry like that. But is it earned? Like, how do you feel as the audience? Like, do you feel like crying? Or is it just that, they're really good at their job, so, they cry? And I think that's the difference. So, yeah, whenever I start from a place of emotion, then I find the right words and or actions. Because sometimes you don't have to write words. It's just about what are they doing, that makes them cry. And is it earned? And that's a question that kind of goes back to the Michael Jackson situation. Is this the best that it can be? To me, is it earned is the same thing. Do we get them to that point where they really do need to cry? And is it earned?
Can you give us an example of a film where that really works? Like just a scene that when you watched it,
yeah,
you knew you wanted to write scenes that, I know some people, one person I know said Ordinary People, that was just a movie for them that just really hit home. And
for me, so I'm a big crybaby now, but I wasn't when I was younger. And there was a scene in Life is Beautiful, which to me is my favorite film. And at the time, I was a young father, I was married, and my son was probably 3 years old, around there. And so there was a scene where they're in France, the Germans are around, and he does this salute to his son. His son copies it, and then he's explaining to his son, like, this is all a game. Can you go hide? And, I'm going to, pretend, and make sure that nobody can find you, something like that. And I'm crying my eyes out because I know that is exactly something I would do with my son. If we were occupied by some hostile country, I would make it into a game to try to hide it. The nuances of this is that he was hiding what the truth was by making it into a game. And that's exactly what I would do. And I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. And I was just crying. And let me go back. I was caught up in the emotion. I wasn't thinking about brilliance because at the time I wasn't breaking down movies because, this is way before. I was still a dancer at the time. I wasn't, but I knew how I felt about that moment because that's what I would do as a father. And so, that emotion, that behavior is, and he wasn't crying. It wasn't an emotional scene in the sense of like there were tears. It was an emotional scene because of his behavior, his actions, and what he was trying to do to spare his son, the possibility of being caught by the Nazis and killed because they were both Jewish. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I literally paused the movie, got up and walked out because I was just bawling. Yeah.